Booyah. We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Darian Talks UTSA. It is Texas State week. Let's go. There's a lot to talk about this week because we have Texas State. There's a ton of storylines. I just got through watching their game against Lamar. I have a few key takeaways that I think one second. Am I live? Okay. I think I am. Give me 1 second. I want to check something real quick before I get started because I don't want to be talking to myself. Oh, I am live. Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot I want to get into on the Texas State game. Just watching Lamar. Also did a lot of just tape study over UTSA and what they did against Kennesaw, and just sort of trying to put together what I think UTSA is going to be able to do against Texas State, and then some things that I'm a little bit worried about that Texas State may be able to exploit against us. Right, so there's a lot to unpack. Get your comments in. I'll get to as many of them as I can because obviously, now that we have a game, I'm going to come in with a lot of stuff that I want to talk about as well. If you want something prioritized, you can always drop a super chat or you can join the channel as a member. And you can find the description or the link in the description section of this video. If you want to join it as a member, that goes a long way in helping the channel and helping my effort here. But anyway, so I'll start with some of what I seen from Texas State in that Lamar game. I have a lot of notes, so bear with me on some of this. So I think what their game just overall, I'll go kind of overall like what I felt about that game, and I want to try to give you guys the best way I can describe what we UTSA are up against in that Texas State team. And they had a very, very similar game to how we had against Kennesaw State, where the first couple drives, they looked perfect. Everything went well. They scored touchdowns. Defensively, they shot. Lamar, they went a while without completing the pass, to be honest. They couldn't. Their defensive line, I'm talking about Texas State's defensive line, did a really good job at getting pressure on the quarterback in the first half, and they just did everything well. One thing that I will say that was very similar as well is we think about how McCown started, right? Those first couple drives, didn't miss a beat, was perfect on pretty much every pass, didn't put a foot wrong, right? Same thing Jordan McLeod did for Texas State. He came in and pretty much those first two drives was dominated. They scored with relative ease, right? And they did it with great balance. He's very accurate. Their running back, Ishmael Mahadi, that dude is, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. That dude is he's cold. Their running back is very good. We already know that, but just watching his game against Lamar, he seems like he's taking another level up. He had a really big game against them. Obviously, you want to see that against better competition, and we're pretty good against the run, and we showed that last week. But they have a talented set of skill players over there. But the one thing that stood out to me very, very early, and I think this is a testament to Jordan McLeod. He was the former Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year last year, and now is Texas State starting quarterback. If you remember, one of the things that I talked about and what I wanted to see from Owen McCown, and I knew we weren't going to see a lot of it because he's, like I said, he's relatively inexperienced as he's still a young quarterback, trying to grow and develop and be the best he can. But when you look at the Jordan McLeod, the quarterback that he's basically up against this particular game, that's someone who's been he's been in college for 7 years. Like, you can make the same jokes about him that people heckle Frank Harris about, right? And you can see that in his play. The first drive of the game, I want to say it was one of the third play of the game. I watched him go through his progression and hit his third option. That was very, very, very impressive to me, considering the fact that he's coming into a new offense and he's already ready to do that. That's something that we didn't see much from. I don't think we've seen one play where where Owen McCown hit his third option. And we've seen a couple plays where he hit his second option, But I just think that shows the level of experience right there. There's a clear contrast between them there. McLeod is also a very composed player, but I do think he was rattled in the second half quite a bit. As I spoke about earlier, their running back is very, very good. We're going to have to be on the lookout for him. And they just have a solid balance on offense. Honestly, there's a lot of talk about GJ Kinney and Coach Traylor, and, they're the two hot coaches right now, so on and so forth. And their relationship in itself, Coach Traylor referred to him as like, hey, he's like a son to me type deal, right? And then talking about their relationship and how close they are, they not only say a lot of the same things in interviews, but if you look at their offensive philosophy, there's a lot of similarities in that as well. Like Kenny likes to he likes to do some RPO. He likes to have a balanced sort of offense. He takes his shots downfield. I'm tell you this right now. Our secondary is gonna have to be ready because they're gonna take shots downfield and they're just gonna say, hey, you know what? We think our athletes are gonna be better than y'all's here. We're gonna have to prove them wrong on that. So yeah, they have a lot to bring there. I also didn't even mention their receivers. They got this dude named Herbert. He was really good. I think he believe he's number 10. He scored 2 touchdowns to basically seal the game for them at the end of the game last week. They have another quarterback or receiver, I'm sorry, that played pretty well. Jaden Williams, he's a transfer from Boston College. He caught a touchdown in the first quarter. So yeah, they do some really good things, man. I think we're up against a team that's going to be very good, and I think UTSA is 100% going to have to take a step forward in terms of the product that we put out on the field if we want to come out of this game victorious. There's just no there's no other way around that, right? We're going to have to play better football to beat them. One of the things I'll talk about defensively, what I saw from them, so here's how to think about their defense, right? Defensively, you're gonna see. I'm gonna take you guys back a little bit, but think of the Legion of Boom, right? That old Seahawks defense. And I'm not saying individuals as players. They're like, I'm not saying they have Earl Thomas or Cam Chancellor or Bobby Wagner or any of those type of guys. What I'm saying, or Richard Sherman or anything like that. What I'm saying is schematically, they do a lot of the same things. They like to run cover 3, and then they like to press the corners off of that. So the corners play a bail technique, which means they're going to line up like they're pressing their receivers, and then on the snap of the ball, they're going to bail out of there, right? They're going to have a high safety in the middle of the field pretty much at all times, and they're going to have sort of their backers sort of just taking away the curls and working to the flats, and they're going to have a guy sitting in the middle. That's pretty much their base defensively, and they run stuff off of that. So sometimes you'll see, a linebacker blitz from that. They'll pick one of those linebackers and they'll blitz them. But sometimes they'll blitz a linebacker from one side and they'll drop the defensive end that's on the line. They'll drop the defensive end in coverage. I worry about that a lot because we have a quarterback that is, still developing, right? So like, what happens if they send pressure one way? He wants to hit his hot read that the hot read stuff that I was detailing in the breakdown video of the tape. They're going to have a DN that's going to pop up now, right? So that's going to be another area that we're going to have to account for. Also, their defensive line, they run a lot of games up front, right? So you're going to see guys twisting and turning and stuff like that to try to confuse our offensive line, which our offensive line, we had some continuity issues against Kennesaw State. So that's something we're going to have to be prepared for as well, because they're going to give us a lot of different looks, and it's going to depend on how we respond to those. That's going to depend on how we can protect the quarterback. So they're a good team. The situation with Lamar was bizarre. I don't know how Lamar got back into the game like that, if I'm being completely honest. But you know what? They were not as clean either. They had a lot of penalties. I think that there's just various things that they can do on their side to clean their game up. I will say this: they unraveled a little bit, and I think there's a few reasons as to why. Number one, I don't know what Kenny was doing, but he took out his quarterback. He took out his starting quarterback and put in their backup for like 2 series, and then expected the starter to come back in and like ball out. He was obviously, I think, impacted from that because Lamar's defense starts switching things up and giving him different looks when he came back, and I just think it screwed up their rhythm. So I think we'll see the best Texas State, but I think it's a very winnable game for UTSA. But we're going to have to show a lot. I think from a talent standpoint, as good as some of the players that they have are, we are still the more talented team. I think we certainly have a more talented defense, even though they have a really good defensive line. And we'll see. It's going to be about our application, right? Because we have way more talent than Kennesaw State, but Kennesaw State played us really well, and then we ended up only beating that team by 12 points. But if you look at it talent alone, which I think a lot of us did, we expected us to blow them out by 40 points plus. I know I did. So yeah, we'll see. I'll start getting to some of the questions now. But I wanted to give you guys my sort of thoughts up front. I have a lot more notes, so I'm sure some of it will come up in some of these questions here. I'm going to go to Mike first, and then we'll go to some of the member questions right after that. Mike says, I think we'll see some of the players who were out in the opener back. I feel our running game will perform better, which will limit the Texas State touches on offense runners by 10. Yeah, so based on what Coach Traylor said about what guys we'll see back, he did say quite a few of those guys won't be there, actually. So who knows? But I think we have enough depth on our team that we should be fine regardless. I just think we got to show up and play ball, right? I think we got to do a lot better than we did last game last weekend, and I expect them to do that. Coach Traylor has been talking about that all week, and I think he's been a little bit more somber and a little bit more. I don't think negative is the word, but he's been really tough on the guys, and just sort of tough on the situation because he senses the disappointment from everybody around the program, fans, media, everybody, right? So I'm hoping that they are doing their best to make sure that we're prepared and ready to go. But as far as our running game, listen, here's the thing I'll say about the running game. We got so much talent. We got a ton of talent at the running back position. But I think we need to shorten up who we're going to see. I don't want to see 6 running backs get the ball. I'm sorry, bro. That's not my style. I don't like it. I think 3 is a lot. But I establish your first 2, and then maybe have a utility guy that can come in. And that's probably, in my opinion, would be the fast freshman, Will Henderson. You got a guy like that. He, to me, has to be somebody that you are getting the ball to. But he's a freshman. I understand he needs to develop as well. But with that type of speed, you got to get him some touches. But in terms of the bell cows, like, establish your 2 and roll with them. Like 6 backs, 6 or however many backs that we've seen. I don't like that. I feel like our running game will be fine. I can tell you one reason I think they'll be good is because Texas State, their defensive line has the tendency, based off last game, to kind of peel their ears back because they want to go get up the field and sack the quarterback. I think play action, draws, and things like that could put them on their heels a little, or not necessarily put them on their heels, but it could just play with their anticipation some, right? If we run the ball whenever they think, on a down where they think we're going to throw, we can run right past those D linemen and get to the second level and then let our running backs dance, right? So, yeah, I think the way they play defense, I think we'll have a lot more opportunities in the run game. All right, we got some member chats. Pogo says, "Will the O-line get their stuff together in time? If they don't, we're going to be in trouble." Yeah, listen, I hope they do. Number one, I think that is, they're going to have to, bro. We can't do anything if our O-line is not going to ball. They have to. I think with there being new guys on the field, I think they're going to get better with every game. Let's just hope that they take the step that they take forward this week is enough to get us a dub. Albert says, anyone here like volleyball? I have 2 tickets for tonight's game that he could give away. If you want to go see some volleyball, hit up Albert there. Seth said, okay, Mike was first. Yep. Anything you see from Texas State D line that might be trouble for our O line? Yeah, like I said, they do some stunts and things like that. They can get a little tricky with some of the things that they do, but I think overall, we're gonna see, and this is not necessarily just their defensive line, but just what they do in terms of bringing pressure anyway. Last week, if you remember, if you guys, for those of you who were able to see my tape study video, I highlighted some of the blitzes that Kennesaw State did that was impactful, and they got to the quarterback. We cut some guys loose a few times. The thing about Kennesaw State's blitz package, and it's the first game of the season, so they probably just ran what they knew how, right? But the thing with their blitz package was it was the same type of blitz every time. It was a cover one blitz. They just switched up, where they were going to send the pressure. That's essentially what they did. They either brought it, they always had a guy coming down the middle, and then they're going to have a guy come off the left side or the right side. That's essentially what they did. They disguised it a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, when the ball was snapped, that's exactly what they did. In this with Texas State, they're going to do a few different type of blitzes. They pulled out a corner blitz, right? They're one of their corners. I think number one, I think that was his number. Number one got a sack on a quarterback. They had a few blitzes from the safety position that they rolled cover 3 behind. They did show I believe they did on one play show sort of a cover 0 blitz where they sent a lot of guys. So we're going to see different pressures. And I think the key thing for our offensive line is we got to do a way better job at recognizing where the pressure is coming from. Owen McCown is going to have to do a better job at recognizing where the pressure is going from pre-snap. So guys, if we need to slide protection anyway, or if the running back needs to stay in and block a little bit longer before he releases, those are the type of things that we're going to have to pick up because they are going to give us different looks, right? And then we also need to understand, where do they like to drop that D in, right? How do they like to do that? Do they like to do that? Do they like to send a blitz from his backside and drop the D in on his on front side for him so it can mess up his read? So anyway, there's a lot that they are going to throw at us. They probably throw 3 or 4 different looks at us. And we just got to be prepared for that. So it does worry me a little bit because we cut so many people loose on the O-line last game, and they were only sending one type of blitz. So it does kind of concern me a little bit when the fact that I know, Texas State put multiple different blitzes out there to kind of put on tape against Lamar. I know we're going to see multiple of those, and I just hope that we're ready and prepared and have studied enough film to be able to execute against those. Ivan Rio says it is easy for this. Oh no, I'm sorry. Is it easy for the O-line group to fix the mistakes that were made on Saturday? It looked like it was only mental, not physical mistakes. Wants to know your opinion if it can be fixed quickly or not. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I do think they were mostly mental mistakes. I mean, listen. To be fair, Kennesaw, They just beat us sometimes, right? Just straight up manhandle beat us. But that stuff is going to happen. Like these other guys on scholarship also. So there were some physical mistakes. But at that point, you just got to hope that we don't get beat more than we win. But on the mental mistakes, yeah, I do think we can take a big leap forward on that. That's more of a continuity thing also, and it's more of just guys being on the same page and seeing the exact same things. So I do think we can. I'm not saying that like we're gonna completely button that up completely, but what I will say is we will be better. Is what I'm saying. We'll be better. I don't know what that's going to mean in the grand scheme of things, but we should on that offensive line be better at picking things up. At least making sure we do our due diligence. That's what I'm saying. Like, and we got better as the game went on against Kennesaw, but there was a couple plays that happened that we were just lucky we didn't turn the ball over. I pointed those out, on the show on the channel earlier. Like we just can't have those type of things. I'll say that. Go to Albert. We got another members post. He says, I'm loving the post game practice interviews. Players are saying this is just week 2. I feel like they're trying not to make this game bigger than what it should be. Yeah, I don't know if they should. I don't know if they. I think that's the right approach, basically, from them, right? Like don't make it bigger than what it should be. At the end of the day, it is just a football game. The stakes are a lot higher. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is college. Listen, for both schools, if you don't win the college football, if you don't win, the college football playoff is off the table. It's off the table. So for both teams are like, sexy picks to make the college football playoff. But yeah, this is why this game is so big. So like, yeah, you want the guys saying that, yeah, this is just week 2 game and things like that. But they also got to be sharp. That's Coach Traylor's job, is to make sure those guys are sharp and make sure they're ready to go, because it's gonna be a game, bro. It's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be a big one. Let's see. Ulysses Gonzalez says Bobcats have to win. This rivalry is lucrative for both schools, bolstering the brand's relevance in Texas under the shadow of A&M and UT. Listen, I'm not going to agree with that. They don't have to win, but I think it is important for them to have a good year overall to keep sort of this rivalry thing going. I think the more money that, for me, I just look at UTSA and whatever can bring us more cash, because we need it. And I think these Texas State games being big time will aid us there in any way. Anthony says, shout out to Anthony. He says, do we see our secondary getting their first true test this week when it comes to having to cover the deep ball? And if so, do we think Denver Harris plays a huge role in shutting down their receivers? I absolutely think we're going to our secondary is going to get tested, bro. Period. They like that quarterback. This is not a coach that's going to sit on his hands. He's going to come out and test us, and our guys are just going to have to be ready for it. I think he's going to take his shots downfield. If you watch that Lamar game, if he gets a slither of an opportunity where he gets a one-on-one and he thinks their guy's got a step, he's going to take his shot. And we got to be prepared for that. We didn't get challenged a ton against Kennesaw State, because that team, their mantra was to run the football, but this team has a good balance, and it's important for them to not be made one dimensional. And it's also important for them to not just dink and dump down the field. They try to stretch the ball down the field. And I think Denver Harris, along with a lot of the other guys, are going to be important to making sure that we win this game. And I think they're going to have to play well. This is an experienced quarterback who does have some moxie in the pocket, and he's very, very composed. And, if we don't get pressure on him, and if we don't make him think twice about some of this stuff with tight coverage, then he will tear us apart, period. Their offensive line blocks the pass very well too. So, our secondary is going to be asked to do a lot. I think the safeties played an excellent game against Kennesaw State. They were very, very good in the run support. All three of them, Elliott Davidson, Jimmy Rorick, and Ken Robinson. So they're going to be tested. They're going to be asked to cover a bit more. Our corners, Denver Harris, Zy Frazier, Cyrus Dumas. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Milton, Morris, the whole cornerback crew. I hope we see less, though, if I'm being honest. I want the top guys to play more snaps. I think we had a heavy rotation, and I hope that rotation is going to be trimmed just in general across the team. And we need to see our best players play. This is a big, high leverage game. There's a lot on the line. So let's not play around on rotations this week. Let's really, trim it down and get the best guys out there 100%. Jason Grant, huge friend of the show. Thanks for the love, bro. Appreciate the love, man. Chef Ray. Shout out to Chef Ray. Shout out to Chef Ray. Anthony says, birds up. Let's keep the winning streak going. We live. What's up to you, Jabari? Anthony says, do we see Tomahawk getting more involved into this week's game plan, knowing his speed is a threat? Listen, he better. Yeah, that dude is a different kind of speed, bro. Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, that's a different kind of. That's what I mean. I don't like the idea that we had, I don't know, 6, 7 running backs touching the ball. I don't really necessarily like that, but to me, I think you got to find whoever your best ones at. I mean, listen, I think Kavorian is pound for pound is one of our best backs, but man, like respectfully, we can't keep fumbling. You can't fumble against a team like Texas State, especially with the stakes on the line. So, um, I know we're going to see a heavy dose. We're going to see a dosage of Robert Henry. We'll probably see a dosage of Rocco Griffin, and I'm sure we'll see a dose of Kavorian Barnes. But I think Will Henderson, you draw up plays to get him a seam. I don't care if I don't. If I'm honest, I don't care to see him do anything conventional. I don't care if he's like doing conventional stuff if you don't want to do that with him. I just know with that type of speed, that person like that guy needs the ball. He needs the ball. That's completely game breaking. I'm shocked that he's not returning punts or kicks or something, to be honest. What are your keys for UTSA to win? Thank you for this question. Great question. This is sort of one of the things I want to get into. Number one, we're just going to have to run cover three beaters a lot offensively. So I think some of how Texas State sets up defensively aids to what we are very good at offensively. So when you look at that cover three look, you ask the question, how do you beat cover three? Well, one of the ways you beat cover three is you throw screens on the outside. You want to talk about throwing, one of the things Lamar did very well, they scored a touchdown off of it, but they motion that they line up in doubles, I believe. They motion the running back out to the right side. You already had two receivers over there to block. They threw it out to the running back, and he hit up the sideline because the receivers blocked well and scored a touchdown. They're going to be susceptible to that because you got the cornerback on that side is going to either be playing off or he's going to bail out on the snap. So guess what? He's not going to have great leverage when it comes to trying to shed a block, especially if we get that ball out hot and fast. And then the inside guy, all he has to do is it's going to be body position for him. Even if that linebacker blows through him, the person who gets the ball should be able to get around him fast enough to where we'll have action. So I think we'll see a heavy dosage of screen plays. We were good at executing those all game. I think that's going to be very important to get that defense to start to cheat around a little bit. So that's going to be important. Also, the seam ball. We're going to have to throw that ball downfield. 100%. You're going to see, I would expect us to, line up and give them a trips look, send four verticals at them and put pressure on those corners and those safeties. Right now, McCown is going to have to make some really, really good thread the needle throws, but he's going to have windows to do that whenever we run seams, and even seams and doubles. Right, we hit the tight ends on those against Kennesaw State. Just think about, whenever I say seams, think about the 35-yarder that Oscar Carter has made, right? That catch that he had, right? We're gonna have to see some of that. Overmeyer had one of those as well. Some of McCown, I thought better reads and better throws. So the way we attack cover three is going to be very, very important. I also think establishing the run game this week is going to be a lot more important than it was last week. Because you got to knock that defense off their heels a little bit. They can't, they I don't know. You have to punish them for wanting to get out after the quarterback the way that they do. They were leaky in the run. I mean, go back and watch that game against Lamar. In the second half, Lamar start running the ball on them and start laying a hammer on them. So there's going to be opportunities for us to do so. And I think a lot of that had to do with, Lamar was dropping back a lot in the first half, and that defensive line was wreaking havoc because they were having success. And then whenever Lamar came back and started running the ball, they started punching on them boys, and it got real for them for a second. So I think attacking the cover three beaters are going to be a huge key. Establishing the run game is going to be a huge key. And I think a lot of that comes not only just with the running backs, but the offensive line as well. And then I think on defense, we need to give – I think the biggest key is this is going to be a game where our secondary is going to have to play really, really well. And I think our coordinator needs to mix up the looks. Because what I noticed from McLeod was he started to get a little antsy whenever Lamar starts switching up some of the looks on them in the second half. They start covering things a little bit more tighter, and it made him start throwing some errant balls. He overthrew some stuff quite a bit, and I think, I just think that if we get him in those situations, I think we'll be able to capitalize on a lot of that. Shout out to Jeffrey. Will Henderson, I'm assuming this is his dad is in there. Shout out to Mr. Will Henderson here. He did say 2 running back set up, 2 more threats. I agree with that. I do think we need to see some two running back threats, and I think one of those threats needs to be a speed guy, whether that's your son or if that's Robert Henry. One of those guys needs to be a part of those setups, 100%. 3 things I want to see versus Texas State. I'm gonna follow you here. You say clean up the penalties, run the ball, create turnovers. Yeah, if we do those things, I think we'll win the game, but there's no guarantee. I mean, listen, the one thing we do have for us is Texas State was more penalized than we were. So so yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works. Sergio says it'll be a good test for our CBs. It absolutely will. I'm seeing some new names here. Nate Becerra. Sorry if I'm butchering that, bro. He says, I think one of the teams is going to blow this game wide open. Hope the runners come to play. I don't think so, if I'm honest. I think this will be a very, very close game from pillar to post. I hope we blow Texas State out. I just don't know if we're going to see that. I still feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions that I have about the team that didn't necessarily get answered against Kennesaw State. I think I was on a podcast earlier. Shout out to Squaring Up Pod. I was on a podcast earlier, and I was I was talking about McCown a little bit, and like I just think there's a little bit of a perception out there, and this may be controversial. It's not. Well, I don't think it's controversial, but like people have been asking me, what do I think of his performance in the first game, and it's been a few days. I've watched the game probably 5 times now. And as I said before, not a great second half, really good first quarter, pretty much. And I don't know, when I start thinking about like why I'm still a little nervous about some of this is because there's still so many things I want to see from our quarterback position that I didn't see against Kennesaw State. Like I said, the first thing that I seen, I picked up on McLeod immediately was the ability to go through progressions. Listen, Texas State is going to take away based on what I seen from their defense and like what I seen from UTSA, they are going to do everything possible to identify and take away the first option every time. Every time. And you may think, oh, that's an obvious thing. It is not as obvious. Teams can sell out to make sure that they do that. There's going to be if you guys could see how film is cut up. I was giving advice to my brother-in-law. He's a high school corner, and he was asking me, hey, because I went to his first game, and he asked me, hey, like what are some things that I can do better? And what I told him was film. Watch film, because if you watch enough and you break the film down and understand tendencies enough, half the time you're going to know exactly what's going to happen based on alignment. You're going to know what the play is going to be. And when I think about how we prepped and prepared for a game coming into, preparing for a game on the weekend or whatever, the level of detail that coaches pick up on and that they're going to be having broken down, they're going to be able to predict a lot of what we're going to be able to do, right? And it's all about execution at that point, because both teams do that to each other, and then you go out there and play, and who can execute and who can't. I can tell you right now, they're probably going to sell out to take away Owen, to force Owen to have to hit his second or third option. They're probably going to do that. What is that going to look like? I don't know, because I've seen 2 maybe 3 passes at tops last game where he was diverted from his first option, scanned his second or third option. It's really his second option, and actually threw the ball to him and made a completion. Yeah, there were times where he did go to his second or third option or looked at them, but he may have pulled the ball down and ran. He may have gotten sacked, so on and so forth, or it's just been an incompletion or whatever. But um, I don't know. I'm a little worried about what that situation is going to look like. I don't know how I even got to that from this question, but yeah, that's how I'm feeling, to be honest. Derek says, Will Henderson, I threw out the idea of maybe running wishbone formation a few weeks ago. Yeah, but wishbone formation is a lot different from like lining up with two running backs. Like you can be in a gun with two running backs, you know, like wishbone's a little extreme. It's a little extreme. I don't know if we're gonna be seeing wishbone. Pogo says, okay, read that one. Which UTSA or which player do you think will be the X factor for UT? Great question. Which player do I think will be the X factor for UTSA against Texas State? Man, great question. The X factor will probably be that's a really good question. I'll give you one. Defensively, I'll go with probably one of the I guess I'll say Denver Harris. I'll say the cornerback position. They're going to get tested, and I think their play is going to dictate a lot of what's going to go on. Number one, they're going to have to shed blocks. That's going to be a big deal for them because they are going to. Texas State does run a fair bit of RPO themselves. So how well do we shed blocks? How well do we contain the outside and make sure receivers don't get outside of us whenever there is a RPO going on? And then are we going to be able to make plays when they test us deep? We got to be able to make plays. We have to. 1 second. Sorry, I thought I heard something in my house, so I had to check. I had to check really quick. But yeah, I think cornerback position would be X factor, and then offensively, I'm gonna go on McCown. If he has a good game, and I know that's an easy one to say, but I think a lot. If he has a good game, we win this game easily. If he struggles, it's gonna be a tough game. But he's gonna have to do a lot more in this game than he had to do against Kennesaw State, and that him having a quarter of really good play is not going to be enough to beat this team. It's not, and I'm not. I didn't watch that game against Lamar and think that, oh my gosh, Texas State are world beaters. No, I don't think they are. I think they're good, but I don't think they're world beaters. But you also can't watch what UTSA did against Kennesaw and think UTSA are world beaters, right? So yeah, it's gonna be who improves at some of these key positions more. That's gonna be a really, really big deal. Yeah, those are my X factors. Pogo says the jet sweep touchdown that got called back was beautiful. That was not a holding call either. That was a bad call. Terrible holding call. Let's see. We have Mike says the content this season has been tremendous. You've also raised the bar high for others to reach. I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, man, I'm trying. I listen. I think I was telling some folks this at the. I met a lot of people. I was thinking about this the other day. I met a lot of people that's here in the chat. I met so many people like Miss Carol. I was able to meet Miss Carol, which was cool. It was like super quick, but it was cool. I met Olivia Houston. I don't know if she participates in the chats as much as she does anymore, or than she used to. But I got to meet her. I got to meet a lot of the folks that are in this community that kind of grew from scratch over this last, I don't know, has it been a year yet since we've been starting to do it like this? It's been great, man. It's been fun. I think at the end of the day, we all love to support UTSA, but I think ultimately there's a lot that we can do whenever we come together and we all have we sort of have a unified front, especially whenever we want something changed, right? And um I've gotten a lot of sort of nods to some of that because a lot of folks who you guys don't may not think pay attention certainly pay attention. So we're gonna keep building this thing as much as we can, man. I love doing it, and I like to talk ball, bro, all day, every day. Can't do it without y'all though. Chef Ray says, we know they may blitz. Would you like to see Owen take off and get more yards? Yeah, I think he's gonna have to. I was when I was on the square, and I don't know when the squaring. So I did a podcast with Jacob Rodriguez. He's a producer for Ken's Five. I think it's Ken's Five. Yeah. So he's a producer for Ken's Five. He covers Texas State, but he covers UTSA as well. So I did the podcast. I don't know when he's going to post it, but the squaring pod with them, and it's more Texas State focused. And there was sort of a question. He asked me a question about what was more manufactured. What was more manufactured? Texas State's quarterback battle or UTSA's quarterback battle? And I actually think my question was, or my answer to that was Texas State's quarterback battle. Because I mean they brought in McLeod, of course he was going to start, but I feel like at UTSA's, I do feel like it was an actual battle, but then it came down to, like, to me anyway, it came down to what profile of quarterback that Coach Traylor prefers and what profile of quarterback works better with his offense. And why it's relevant to this question is because, to me, personally, I think who throws a better ball, like just straight up, who has a better arm talent? I think actually Marburger has better arm talent than McCown. But I hear people talk about it factor with McCown, and I do believe that he does have some of that. But like, whenever you say it factor, what that really means to me is he is a playmaker. He can make plays that, not your typical everyday quarterback is going to make. And I think he can do that with his legs. He does have the ability to extend plays. He does have some pretty good instincts with things like that. He's going to have to be able to do that against Texas State because their defensive line is good. And even if our offensive line comes in much improved, they are going to lose some one-on-one battles with those defensive linemen that Texas State have. They have some solid talent over there on that side of the ball. It's going to be imperative, which is why I said I think Owen McCown is probably going to be the X factor for UTSA, because he's going to have to be a very good improviser against this team, a very good improviser. We might have the first 15, 20 plays go well because they're on script. Okay, now what's going to happen, though, when we go off script? Or is our offense going to go to the dump again, or are we going to be able to continue to be productive? And I think a lot of that's going to be his recognition at knowing what's coming his way, and his ability to use his legs, as you're talking about here, and get more yards, extend plays, and even maybe rush for a touchdown again. So those are all going to be important ingredients and important things for us to be able to take the next level or take the next step to beat this team. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a very, very important game. And we just must have very good quarterback play. One more thing on the quarterback. Did you see Coach Traylor's interview, not today, but yesterday, post game? Shout out to JJ and UTSA Insiders, or Inside Runner Sports. I think UTSA Insiders is the Twitter handle, right? One of the two. Anyway, shout out to them. But they were asking some pretty, which I thought was very fair questions to Coach Traylor, and Coach Traylor kind of at the end of it was like, "Man, you guys are harsh. The dude is 2-0 still, And I just thought that was interesting. It just shows that man, we got high expectations. We got high expectations, and I like it. Christian Cruz says, shout out to Christian. I don't think I've seen you comment on here before, but welcome to the show, man. Oh, by the way, I did not do this last time. Guys, if you were here, 63 folks here. takes you 1 second to just like the video. It's going to help grow the channel. It's going to help get this out to more folks who love college football and UTSA, and it's going to help grow the community. It costs $0 to do that. So if you can like the video, that would be very, very great. But okay. And if you're new here, subscribe as well. That will also help. Christian says, as long as our O-line can fix their knickknacks, we'll be fine. I think we will be too. Tacos and Touchdown Live. I did do the podcast with them, man. Nice dude. He says, I agree, and thanks, bro, for answering my question. It was great having you on the show last month. Keep up the great content. Try to keep pushing. One of these teams will be exposed. I hope it's not our runners. Yeah, I hope it's not our runners too. But listen, I think, like I said before, man, we both coming into this situation with the same, with sort of the same problems. We started out great. We didn't finish, right? I mean, technically, both teams finished the game with a victory, but you can't have that long of a period to be playing bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I think both teams had that 100%. Squaring around pod Friday-ish. Yep. Look for the show Friday-ish. I'll retweet it on my Twitter when it comes out. Pogo says, I hope Kennesaw State was just better than we thought. They probably were better than what we thought, but we were still light years better than them, in my opinion, based on what you could just see. The eye tests, we were better than them, but they executed more consistently than we did, in my opinion. They did. And that's what I mean. So I want to touch on that real quick. That's what I mean by, like, people have been saying all season is, on paper, this is the most talented UTSA team that we've ever seen. And maybe so. I don't disagree with that. But what I've tried to be consistent in saying is, on paper means nothing. Execution is what's going to win and lose you ball games. On paper, Kennesaw State, there's not a player on Kennesaw State that could walk onto UTSA and get into the starting lineup. They don't have a player that can come in and do that, right? But guess what? They executed better than we did a lot, and that's why the game ended up being as close as it was. They were executing, we weren't. Like, all that talent is nothing if you can't put it together. That's my point. That's my overall point. All the talent is nothing if you can't put it together on the field and execute the way you're supposed to. Darian Ibar says, how is their offense? They have a pretty good offense. I was talking about a little bit of that earlier, but their quarterback is good, but he can be rattled. He's not perfect. And we've seen that as the game progressed. I think their coach has something to do with that too, because he mismanaged their snaps, which was really weird. But it's pretty good. They do. I can tell you this. It looks a lot similar to ours, but they just package it a little bit differently because they make it a point to get certain. Like, for example, their running back, dude. Their running back, that single guy, that Mahadi guy, he's better than any running back we have on our roster. Right now, currently, he's better. He's a complete back. And you can just tell he has experience. His vision is excellent. He's a really, really good player. And I don't typically do that, but that, see, like I said with Kennesaw State, I said, well, I don't think a guy on that team can walk in and start at UTSA. Well, that running back that they have would walk in and probably start at UTSA 100%. But their offense is good. They have a couple good receivers. The Herbert guy, or Holbert, or however you pronounce it, number 10, he's really good. Jaden Williams had a pretty good game with the new Boston College transfer that they had. They do some things well. They look a lot like us. You're going to see some RPO stuff. You're going to see them stretch the ball downfield. You're going to see them definitely run the football with that running back that I'm talking about. I think he had a $150 against Lamar. Really, really, really solid, a really good player. Their offense can be a problem. I'll say that. Our defense is going to have to play a very good game. There's Olivia. Hello, Olivia. It was great to meet you, although it was quick as well. She said, I'm just quiet, but I'm always around. There we go. We'll take it. Who wins and why? UTSA wins, in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that, like, I think it's going to be very close, and it's a losable game for us. Let's be very clear about that. Like, there's a reason why they're favored to win. Um, Whenever you look at, like I said, the biggest difference for me, if you were going to play devil's advocate and make a case for them, is quarterback experience. And it's not that our quarterback will play bad, but they have a quarterback with 7. They have a quarterback that's been in college for 7 years, bro. You know, like that's just unequivocally an advantage. It just is, right? So um but I think in the grand scheme of things, our defense is going to I think our defense is going to give their offense problems. And I think offensively we can scheme up some stuff that's going to put us in positions to win. And I actually think their just defensive makeup falls into what our strengths already are. Like, if I'm just being honest. So I think they're going to have a hard time stopping us. And I don't think that I think McCown is going to have to play make and things like that, but like I don't think he has to play like a rock star for us to win. Um, but I do think he's going to have him he's just going to have to take a step up from last game, and be able to extend some plays. But I think we'll be fine. My like score prediction, and I would like to ask you guys if you can put your score predictions in the chat because I'm curious to hear what you guys think here. My score prediction for this game is probably going to be like a 31-24 UTSA victory. That's what I'm going. I think it's going to be relatively close, and it'll probably be one possession that's going to separate us. They're going to fight hard, bro. This is their first time. I mean, all of the games have been in one. All the games I think is except one has been a one score deficit, and I think this one will be the same thing. So we'll see. There's a lot on the line in this game, and both teams are going to give their all. Like I said, the college football playoff is off for whoever loses this. So it's just high stakes. High stakes. RowdyRunner Hype says we got to get the baseball team to teach Owen how to slide when he runs that end zone run. Look like he hurt himself a bit. Yeah, he needs to protect himself. He certainly needs to protect himself. 100%. Rojo Vid says, how do you think our defense will handle McLeod using his legs? You know what? I get the impression that he doesn't really want to use his legs like that. I think he likes to throw the rock, but he will use his legs, and that's something that we have to account for. And I think we'll be fine. Our defense is fast, and I think we'll contain him well. I'm not that concerned about him using his legs as much, to be completely honest. Clark is not back. Injury situation is going to be. I wouldn't expect to see him until conference, and I don't even know if he'll play conference. Shout out to my man 210 Danny. Says that at the end of the day, it's going to come down to which team plays a clean game as far as penalties and which team capitalizes on others' penalties. I hope it doesn't come down to that, but if it does come down to that, it's in our favor because they had 16 penalties for 156. I mean, we had 10 for 109, which are both just jokes. What do you think about UTSA Texas State Twitter war? It's fun to watch. I don't like to participate, but it is fun to watch. It is very fun to watch. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's been pretty hostile actually. I will say I've kind of expected you guys to be going at them a little harder. But I think it's because folks are a little nervous about it, if I'm being honest, because UTSA didn't look great. I think that's what it is. That's why I have like kind of a feeling of like, I don't know how great everything is. I don't know how confident we are overall because I'm like, we're not as crazy as I've seen us in the summer. He said last I heard Coach said he scheduled. Okay, I think he was replying back. Let's see. Will Henderson was a nice look into the future. Yeah, bro. And he's one of the guys that everybody's talking about. Everybody's asking me about Will Henderson. Yeah. Shout out to him. He's gonna be a good player, man. Shout out to my man JJ. JJ says, I think the portal or the transfer portal is a double-edged sword. Sure, you bring in a lot of talent, but it takes time for that talent to get adjusted to the way we do things. Yeah, that's a great point. I think we see that all the time. We see that everywhere, but I think we see that at UTSA as well, and especially with the offensive line. I'm assuming that's what's fueling this comment. But yeah, offensive line, and I think some of those guys, it's just going to take time for them to gel to this point and to get some of that continuity together. I think defensively, we've seen some guys show some stuff like pretty early. They hit the ground running. Jimmy Rorick was one of them that I thought that I was really impressed with whenever he came. I think he deserves more snaps. Really, he seems like a really, really good player. Excited to see what he can bring to the table. But yeah, I just think in general, we're gonna see stuff like that. And that's the one thing that kind of bums me out about this game being week 2 for both teams is because there's so many positions that were filled from guys from the transfer portal. They haven't even got time yet to get really acquainted with what their assignments are, what they're expected to do, so on and so forth. So it's unfortunate that it's week 2, but it is what it is. It's also exciting. It's also exciting because somebody's going to take a step forward. Someone's going to take a step back. We're going to see. We got a lot of scores here, so I'm seeing mostly UTSA as I would expect on my chat. We got 28-24s, 23-17s, 33-27s. I like that one. 31-24. I think that's exactly what I said. So I definitely like that one from Thomas here. 31-27. Okay. Ooh, I like this one. 42-23. UTSA. We got a Bobcat in here. 56-31 from the Bobcat. Okay. All right. We'll see. Wrap up with we got a couple more. Jamie says, do you think we showed our whole bag of tricks against Kennesaw? No, probably not. I doubt it. But I also wonder, like, what are we gonna show that's just like super different against Texas State? Like, I don't know that we will, to be honest. I think they have. I listen, if they play defense similar to how they played against Lamar, and I'm assuming their base is this sort of shell cover 3 that they run, there's a pretty clear way to beat that, in my opinion. And it is in our offensive bread and butter to beat that type of system. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. It's really hard to tell. Bulldog UTSA says, am I the only one not worried, feeling good about this weekend? Shout out to you, bro. Shout out to Bulldog UTSA. I'm worried. I'm be honest with you. I'm worried about it. Like, I think we're gonna win. I feel like I have like this hidden confidence, but at the same time, it's probably because we beat them every time we've played them. So like there's a part of me that feels like they're just not gonna beat us because of that. But like, I don't know. I was like super confident before the season, but I didn't like what I seen last week. I'll be honest with you. I was not pleased with that. I think we just didn't execute the way that I think we should have executed, especially with Coach Traylor at the helm. So hopefully we take steps forward, but that's Texas State, although they're a good team, and I mean no disrespect to them when I say this, I'm nervous because of what I seen from UTSA. When I watched the Texas State game, I didn't see a team that I'm like super nervous about. But I do recognize they have talent. But my nervousness comes from UTSA didn't look good. So like, how am I going to project that they're going to come in and just beat on this Texas State team? All right, I got mixed feelings about this game because I feel like we're going to show up, but then again, I feel like we're going to be shut down. I'm not mad at you there. I'm just nervous about this whole season, to be honest. I am too. 1,000%. Shout out to Ulysses. Excellent pod, by the way. Love that it's more technical than usual. Feel like I learned more. Got a better idea of what's going on. Absolutely, man. That's why I've been ready for the season, because that's when I can shine and I can give y'all my best type of content. I like the X's and O's of the game. That's what keeps me doing this stuff. I love the X's and O's. It's Rap doesn't feel worried. Pogo says, do more game breakdowns. That is top-notch content. I will absolutely do that. I really like doing those, and it was received well by a lot of you guys, so I will certainly do those. Those are fun for me. I can do that all day, so I will certainly do more. Last one from Thomas here. The more we keep beating them, I hope it becomes a mental challenge. It's like they want to win, but they just can't get it done. I kind of think that's the way it was, because I expected my man Jacob, the one I did the podcast with, to be a little bit more Texas State heavy in some of his takes. He ultimately picked Texas State to win, but to me, if there was any time for them to be confident, it's this season. It's what this is the most vulnerable. This is the most vulnerable we've been for a Texas State game ever. So, but at the end of the day, I don't care. It's Texas State. We're gonna beat them somehow, some way. So I made sure I wore this on purpose. Love the badge, baby. Love the bird. Yeah, we're gonna find a way to get it done. Make sure you guys check. I'm sorry. Yeah, make sure you guys check out the post game show that I'll be doing Sunday after the game. That's going to be fun. I don't know if I can't guarantee you I'm going to do a post game Twitter Spaces, because I was emotional on the last one, so I don't know if I'll do it again unless something crazy happens. Who knows? But also, yeah, man, I'm gonna keep the content coming. You guys stay here with your boy, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a couple of days after the game. Go Runners! We got to win this one for sure. I'll holla at y'all. Peace.